Hey guys, Brandon Hunt here with IGN. We're talking to Chris Carle and Scott Collura about the epic and crazy finale of the Jinx last night. It's a documentary about Robert Durst. The Life and Deaths of Robert Durst is what it's titled. It's on HBO. Last night was the season finale. It was pretty harrowing and pretty crazy. I'm gonna throw to Chris. What did you think about the craziness last night?
Yeah, it was like absolutely like one of the most chilling things I think I've ever seen. In terms of like, I mean, it could have been a horror movie. So that when he went into the bathroom and started basically like you started to hear his inner monologue, it was like you were looking. It was like the Joker was talking. It was just or Gollum. That was the comment I heard several times yesterday. It was like you saw this killer's thoughts unfurl, along with some really weird and totally troubling bathroom noises. Which I don't mean to laugh because it was actually really horrifying, but then it was punctuated with this weirdness too. Like in the middle, he's just like, "And the burping." Like, what about the burping? But I mean, totally crazy. Like I expected it to be good, but I did not expect it to be this. And I think that they didn't either. I
Right.
didn't think they'd ever in their wildest dreams think they'd get that.
Right. It seems as though he sort of knew it was coming, and maybe in his preparation, maybe a little bit he seemed to be like, okay, I think this is the end for me. At least halfway through the interview, and must have you could tell in those final statements in the bathroom that he's like he says the lines, "I wanted this. This is what I wanted." So that's pretty crazy. He's wanted. It seems like he wanted to be caught. Scott, what do you think about that sort of aspect of it? Do you think he wanted to
It
finally tell all of his story like that?
it kind of seems like on some level he did, right? Because there was also that incident in his the first interview he did where he didn't once again he didn't realize he was mic'd or it was still mic'd, and he kind of what did he say that time? I'm trying to remember, but he kind of gave it away a little bit there as well,
Right.
and so it's like and also why are he really seemed to get away with murder with the Galveston case where he admitted that he cut the guy's body up and yet he still got off. Why is he doing these interviews? Like, well, like he got away with three murders. We think. I mean, we all pretty much think he's guilty, right? So um, why do this? So it's almost like yeah, there is something there that he wants to just confess, or he wants people to know that he did it.
Right. It feels, yeah, it definitely feels like this interview process for him was sort of the be all end all, and he seemed to maybe in his heart of hearts he knew it, and he wanted to just maybe he didn't want to get caught, but maybe he wanted to tell his story, but he probably knew that he couldn't do both at the same time. It's pretty crazy, pretty scary. So, Chris, what did you think
Yeah,
about the whole
definitely.
season?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it's interesting because season, but I think the greatness of this particular piece of work hinges on that last episode. And I think, it was good in the way that, like crime documentaries often are. And then at the end, it was just amazing because of what happened. It's it well, but the thing is you make your own luck, and they put themselves in a situation where they had prepared well enough to stage this thing for him to, admit to, or to get him to fumble into. And they did a really good job, I think. I think there was also this weird emotional component where they felt like they were ambushing him, but I think they had done a good job preparing up to that point, and then when it delivered, it really delivered.
Yeah, how nervous were you guys for Jarecki? Like when he was going to show him the two handwriting samples, I was like, felt like my heart was pounding. Like, like is he going to, is Durst going to take Jarecki out right now? Like you
Honestly,
really,
I was nervous for both of them. The one thing that like this series like gets across is that yeah, he might be a little nuts but like this is a guy that if you just met him and interacted with him in a coffee shop, you'd just be like, what a pleasant guy. He seems fine, He seems like just a normal dude. And Jarecki even said he's like, I kind of like the guy, and it's gonna feel bad for me to do this. And I think that was part of the wonder of how do you reconcile that man? How do you like take this guy who is charming to some people and then cuts other people up?
Right. I think what's really fascinating about this documentary and kind of awesome is that you get to kind of see the revelation of him admitting it uh, live, like right before your eyes, which is bonkers. We don't ever really get to see that with any kind of case. We always kind of get, the aftermath of it, and then it's presented to us in whatever fashion. But this was just bonkers. I couldn't believe that we got to see that whole thing, that whole exchange documented, and the preparation for that and what they were thinking about with how they presented that to them, because I think they were thinking if they presented it too early to the police, that they could be somehow associated with being like federal agents. I think was one of the terms. I think it put them in that same category, and ergo would get them in trouble. But it was really amazing to see that happen, and then the night of, we see the headline that he's been arrested for all those things. It's kind of like when the Boston Marathon bomber stuff happened, and we got to see all that unfold on Reddit, that whole search. I mean, that was bonkers, and it's sort of in the same vein of wow. I mean, it's obviously not totally live, but we do get to see a sort of real time event occurring before us. It's kind of like, I don't know. Seems like we're getting closer to Minority Report.
Yeah,
know?
true. Although,
But,
and then and that's true. And then at the same time, I was surprised to hear that the interview was from like 2012, I think, or 2013. That last interview. So I
right,
was so surprised to hear that,
right,
and that he wasn't arrested until Saturday night, I think it was. So then that of course raised the question: why did these guys? Um, why didn't law enforcement have all of this evidence sooner? And I mean, in a weird way, it's almost like Jarecki and his team have sort of had a negative light shined on them amid the success of this show, and it's easy to sort of judge them from here, not really knowing all the details. But it seems like you could almost do a Jinx 2 about the making of the Jinx or something. I
Yeah.
don't
right.
know.
And,
A sort
and
of
who knows, they
follow-up.
may very well do that. What's interesting to me is I would almost think that they would be culpable if he had committed another crime between in those 2 years that they were sitting on this. And it's like, it's such a strange thing to watch this happen, because it's like you get this like sort of delay of justice when they know. I'm really interested to find out what the timeline is of them sharing information with the police, and maybe the police were like cool with it all along, and they were just monitoring Bob Durst. But I don't know. I'd be really interested to find that out.
Yeah, it sounds as though I read an interview with them this morning, and it seemed as though they were claiming they didn't even know they had that last bit of bathroom audio until this summer, even though the interview was from a couple of
Oh
years
wow.
ago.
Wow.
So they held it at least that long, I guess. When they gave it to the police after that, it doesn't seem to be clear at the moment. But yeah, I mean, he was out there walking around.
In my mind,
Yeah.
in my mind, the audio tech just ran into Jarecki's room and was like high-fiving people all over the place, like, guess what I just got? Guess what I just got? But like, if they didn't find it for like 2 years, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's really bonkers. I'm interested to see. I really hope they do give us a kind of follow up, and see if we can see the aftermath of them, how they're presenting that audio, how they decide whether or not to hold on to it or not, and how the police involvement uh, comes into play. But hopefully, in the near future, with the success of this, it's sort of almost like it's becoming the video equivalent of Serial, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully, we get to see that aftermath. Any final thoughts with you guys before we wrap up here?
Yeah, I think this is a very, very interesting and strange case, and this may not have. In a way, the actual real life news served as kind of a spoiler for the end of this show. I think Scott said that New York Times, and a bunch of people were saying that the New York Times tweeting this news, which by the way is news that's happening in the world, not a spoiler. It's like it is spoiling the end of the show for some people. So it's this crazy like perfect storm of weirdness that caused this situation. But it's bizarre. Like, I seriously stayed off a Twitter while the show was on, and before, I was like, I want to see this fresh. And man, am I happy I did that and was able to do that.
Yeah.
Same.
I think, and I think you mentioned Serial. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more programming of this nature between this and Serial, and the success of both. This true crime stuff it's hot right now, you know, that and zombies. So if we could get a true crime zombie thing going, then that would be it.
That might just be my dream come true. Well, guys, I want to say thank you for joining me. I enjoyed the Jinx a whole lot. Hopefully, we get to follow up, and we can do this again in the near future. But for everything, I'm Brandon Hunt. This is Chris Carle and Scott Collura. For everything the Jinx related and Robert Durst burping related, please come back and keep it locked in to IGN.